Welcome to First. I'm Shirley Min along with Nichelle Polston and Mark Eichman. Is Wilmington hip? Like many urban areas, Wilmington is trying to keep young people here for its future.
How we view where we live is important. How we view ourselves is even more important. It's especially true for women of color, and it's the message behind I Love Your Brown.
The current Miss Delaware has a message she wants us all to hear. Food allergies are a big deal. She'll talk to us about what she's learned and her message for others. First, your public media news magazine starts now.
When you walk around downtown Wilmington now, it's hard not to notice all that's changed. There are new restaurants, bars, and apartments, lots of apartments. The housing and new amenities are part of a citywide effort to bring more young people to Wilmington, the key many believe to turning the place around for the better. Here's our first look. This is where Wilmington's newest apartment building is going up. 200 luxury spaces in the city's Midtown neighborhood.
I don't think we could have projected that we would have so many new residents, so many upwardly mobile residents living in our buildings in this short of a time.
The Buccini Poland Group is the Wilmington developer behind this new construction and several other apartments and condos in Wilmington. They've opened floor plans, stainless steel appliances, and granite countertops. Senior VP Michael Hare says since 2001, BPG has developed close to 1,400 residential units at the riverfront, on Market Street in Wilmington's Central Business District, and places in between. Hare says 95% of them are occupied.
It tells us that as employment continues to grow in the city, in and around Wilmington, the demand for housing grows in and around Wilmington.
Among BPG's renters, Hare says 35% are millennials, typically considered 34 and younger, without kids. Young professionals, or YPs, a highly sought-after demographic in Wilmington, not only for their spending power, but also because of the vibrancy they bring.
Initially, our focus was how can we build a residential downtown living base, and that's something that we've been focused on for 10 years now, and that's occurred. In the past 4 or 5 years with this national focus, the proliferation of the word millennials, and the focus on young professionals, that we've also sort of just rolled that in to what we want to accomplish.
Our goal is to keep them here. We want them to live here, we want them to eat here, we want them to go to the bars and go to the theaters and really just see that Wilmington has a lot to offer.
But Todd Miller says Wilmington can be a tough sell for prospective employees.
The number one thing that we hear is, oh, you're in Delaware. Where is that?
Miller is the Chief Experience Officer at the Archer Group, an agency that helps companies get the most out of anything digital. We're talking websites, social media, and mobile apps.
It's a young industry. It's an industry that hasn't been around for a long time. It's an industry that I think attracts people that are more natively using the tools every single day.
Yep, millennials. The average age of Archer's 74 employees, 28, and the tech industry is cutthroat.
We hear, across the industry that it's a 14 to 18-month tenure, depending on the kind of type of agency you are, your location, things like that. So you really have to differentiate yourself and know what you stand for. And for us, we want to show that we want to invest in our employees.
The workspace exudes cool. Look, foosball. All to create this laid-back, fun work environment. But Miller admits Wilmington is seen as a drawback at first when it comes to recruiting top new talent, which is why he tries to get them to the office ASAP.
Once you get here and you understand it's not far from Center City, Philadelphia, or from the burbs, once you get a sense that there's a little bit more of a community that's building up around us right now, then it isn't as hard of a sell.
As it is, the vast majority of his employees live in Philly or the PA suburbs. But he says Wilmington has changed a lot, and for the better, in the 10 years he's been with Archer.
Now there's beer gardens popping up, there's farmers markets that are popping up, there's different events that are coming in. So the win for us is I want more people to say, wow, maybe I want to live in Wilmington. I want to live closer.
Deputy Chief of Staff Sam Lukoff says Wilmington has a healthy YP population when it comes to working here. But come 5 o'clock, see you, Wilmington. Lukoff helped spearhead the mayor's Young Professionals Task Force, where she heard from about 24 YPs about the city's pros and cons. A plus, you can be a big fish in a small pond.
In Wilmington, they were able to make a name for themselves very quickly. They were, moving and shaking with the top leaders. One of the not so great things is that they said there wasn't a ton to do here nightlife-wise.
Which is why Lukoff helped organize what the city called YP Week earlier this year, to show off Wilmington's fun side. On this day, it was a lunchtime dance party at the Queen.
There's always this discussion about the chicken or the egg. How do you get new residents downtown without the services? But you need the spending power of residents in a downtown area to support the services.
We think we're in probably the 5th or 6th inning here in the city of Wilmington in terms of our residential and retail development. We've got so many great restaurants that have opened, many more that are going to come in the next 12 months. So we think we're past the hard part for sure.
Wilmington seems to be turning a corner when it comes to attracting people of any age downtown, but the city still has this murder town cloud hanging over it. And while crime is a reality in any city, Michael Hare with the Buccini Polling Group says fewer than 1% of his residents are worried about their safety. And Economic Development Director Jeff Flynn believes as more people move downtown that will deter crime.
Shirley, tell me, what is the rent like in one of the apartments owned by the Buccini Polling Group?
So the luxury units being built now will likely go for more, but rent ranges between, this is for a one-bedroom, between $550 to $1,150 a month.
Okay, well, the push to attract more young professionals comes under the Williams administration. Mayor Dennis Williams is running for re-election. What happens if he loses?
So I think bringing millennials to Wilmington is probably something any mayor would want. Almost half of the city's revenues are generated from wage tax from people who live here or work here. And so the more people downtown, that means more culture, more technology, more spending power, and then ultimately more jobs to meet the demand.
Okay, very well. Thanks, Shirley. An online version of this story can be found at newsworks.org/Delaware.
Coming up on First, 2 Dover mothers have a lesson in loving yourself no matter what your skin color is. And Winterthur brings you the ultimate art lesson. First Experience shows how the definition of art has changed through the centuries. For those who follow Newcastle County government, there is no bigger phrase than the Unified Development Code. In his monthly conversation, WHYY contributor Dace Blaskovitz talks to John Stapleford of the group Decon First.
Welcome back to the segment, John Stapleford.
Always glad to be here, Dace. You have a great show.
Well, thank you. Thank you. It's an election year, a lot of hoopla around the Unified Code in Newcastle County. Let's start at the beginning. What is the Unified Code?
In 1998, with the encouragement of then County Executive Tom Gordon, the county passed a set of new land use regulations, laid them on top of the existing land use regulations, much stricter, much more constraining.
And fast forward through those decades, and what does the data say? What do the numbers say about the effectiveness of this anti-development / anti-growth effort?
Well, when you read the legislation itself, the Unified Code itself, especially in the introduction, there's words that jump out to an economist, which is, let's control growth, more open space, let's control congestion. And so you say, oh, they want to slow the economy down. And when you look at the bottom line, looking back, sitting where we are right now, absolutely achieved their objective.
And what do the numbers say?
Since 1998, Newcastle County in the private sector has added 300 jobs a year, which is a growth rate of a little under 0.2% a year.
Wow, wow.
So, and the growth that has occurred in jobs, the Unified Development Code only applies to unincorporated areas of the county. So the job growth that has occurred has been in incorporated areas, the riverfront in Wilmington, and of course Middletown, where an awful lot of the jobs went. And this is also true with residential development. Residential development in the unincorporated county fell off, and it moved to areas like Middletown where they weren't subject to the Unified Development Code.
Let's go a different way, just a minute. Money always goes to where it's treated the best. Clearly, it's squirted in a couple different spots. Talk to those unintended consequences. You just did a white paper on Chester County. What's that all about?
Well, Chester County has benefited both from the school busing decision in 1978, which caused many young professionals with school-age children to move up to Chester County, and they benefited from the Unified Development Code. When the Unified Development Code was put in 1998, since that time we said 300 jobs a year in New Castle County. Chester County, 3,000 jobs a year, and a growth rate of, well, at 1.5%. So apparently, when you're faced with having to climb this ladder of this code, you say, well, let's just move north of Delaware into Chester County.
All right, let's kind of wrap this thing up just a minute, if you would. This election year, as in every election year, we either, you, me, residents of New Castle County, either have to see higher taxes or growth. What has to change to bring growth back to New Castle County?
Well, the biggest one, which of course the county has no control over, is the quality of the public schools, because almost 70% of the 8th graders in public school are functionally illiterate. So the people either go to charter schools or private schools, or they move up to Chester County. But there's other things the county can do. It could modify the Unified Development Code to make it less harsh and to not scare away development and major companies. And the other thing is a right-to-work law. And a right-to-work law simply says you can go work at a company without having to join the union. There's 26 states that have right-to-work laws. They're all doing well.
And okay, let's soften that unified code theoretically just a minute. What would you do? Be proactive.
I think you have to, when you have a code that's that strict, basically what you're doing is you're increasing the power of government to play for pay.
Wow. John Stapleford, as always, delight. Thank you for joining us.
Glad to be here.
Speaking of New Castle County politics, Tom Gordon is facing a Democratic challenger. The winner of that race will face one of 2 Republicans in November. One other note about Dace, he has a paid part-time assignment with the Caesar Rodney Institute as a consultant.
The Blood Bank of Delmarva is looking to keep people flowing through its donor locations to collect blood. Right now, the supply is running low, and officials aren't meeting their daily goal of nearly 300 donors to help serve area hospitals throughout the Delmarva region. Let's take a closer look.
Please keep in mind that there are patients in our communities that need blood every single day.
It's not unusual to see empty seats at the Blood Bank of Delmarva during summer months, but this year the numbers are at an all-time low, and the need to donate is critical.
Right now, our daily need is about 260 donors per day.
CEO Roy Roper says the blood bank isn't coming close to that number, and the empty shelves here is evidence that the blood supply is a problem.
When people don't come in to donate, that creates a challenge because now we have to make up for those units. And so whether donors come in today or tomorrow, the need by the hospitals never changes.
The trend is also being seen nationally with all types of blood needed. Tom Keene, a 40-year member of the blood bank, donates platelets which are often needed by cancer patients.
Yeah, you wonder why there's not many in here. Sometimes I'll come midweek and there'll be more seats filled. But platelets usually takes a couple hours, so I think people might be reluctant to give up that amount of time.
Keene is among the 10% of the U.S. population eligible to donate blood, and he's dedicated for a special reason.
Well, I donate platelets now every 2 to 3 weeks because I know platelets are used a lot at the AI DuPont Institute, and there's a lot of children that need platelets.
Besides platelets, which have a very short shelf life, Roper describes what blood types are needed most in trauma centers. According to officials, the summer is the busiest time of the year for trauma centers and hospitals.
We also need type O and type B. Specifically for type O, we need O negative. O negative is the universal donor type. And so in a trauma, for example, an O negative unit can be transferred to a patient with another blood type. So it's a critical blood type to have.
Statistics indicate 1 in 7 people may need a blood transfusion at least once in their lifetime. That's another reason officials are calling on people now to donate. And the hope is to keep people doing so throughout the year to make sure there's never a shortage. Meanwhile, as for Keene, the experience of giving blood will certainly bring you one thing.
Well, you get that feeling of that knowing you're helping someone, and it doesn't really cost you anything except some time and some of your blood and platelets.
The Blood Bank of Delmarva is offering a few incentives for those who would like to donate. You could win a pair of 4-day passes to next year's Firefly Music Festival in Dover or a $1,000 gift card from TD Bank. For more information or to schedule an appointment, visit delmarvablood.org.
In the August Glamour magazine, President Barack Obama writes about the unfair realities of being female, especially for women of color. 2 Dover mothers also tackle that sensitive issue, which can undermine girls' confidence, in their new children's book.
Your beauty is uncompromising. Your light comes from a deep place, from your mother's mother's mother.
Students at the Servium Girls Academy in Newcastle listen as authors Danae Jacobs and Atia Chase read from their book, I Love Your Brown. The book came about after a startling statement from Chase's 4-year-old daughter.
We were sitting in her room and we were just having story time in the afternoon. And her little hand fell on mine and she immediately noticed the color difference. And she said, Mommy, I want to be peach like you.
The only answer the heartbroken mother could come up with was, I love your brown, to let her daughter know that her darker hue is just as beautiful as any other. But she felt her affirming words weren't enough.
Self-affirmation is hard and has always been a struggle amongst all ethnic groups, but particularly with women of color. That has been a historic trend.
Dr. Carol Henderson of the University of Delaware has studied print and visual images of Black women and says the media perpetuates the problem.
If you think of how African American women and women of African ancestry, also women of color, have been portrayed in the media, it's always been in some fashion that we have a deficit, either in our melanin, or our intellect, or our body image.
The media's influence is evident when the girls were asked to choose images they thought were beautiful as an exercise. Noticeably absent, women of darker hues.
You're aware that the media is trying to make you not be your sister's keeper. You're aware that the media wants you to question what beauty is and how great you are. You're aware that, people want you to compare yourself one to another.
It's that sort of thinking that President Obama wants to change. We need to keep changing a culture that shines a particularly unforgiving light on women and girls of color. Michelle has often spoken about this. And Jacobs and Chase agreed. That's why they wrote the book.
It's not just for the little girl. It's for the woman who still has a little girl inside of her. It's for brown people. It's for people that are white. It's for everybody because it talks about diversity. It empowers girls of all colors to be their sister's keeper.
Peggy Provoznik-Hines, president of Servium Girls Academy, finds their message befitting for her student body, which comes from low-income homes in the greater Wilmington area.
Having guests come in like our authors who share that message over and over again, and we hear it whether it's on the gym floor or in a health class or in science where we have scientists coming in and sharing their story, or cooks. We have guest speakers coming in all the time of every walk of life, and especially when they see women who look like them and start to realize, I could be that.
One other thing, the authors strategically used photos of real girls in their book so their readers could relate to them.
The Miss America pageant is September 11th this year in Atlantic City, and one of the contestants, of course, is Miss Delaware Amanda DeBus, and she joins us for First Person this week. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
And you brought your crown too.
Of course, if you want to wear it.
No, I think I'll pass this time, and we'll talk about the pageant in a little bit. But for your platform, you've chosen an interesting topic: food allergies.
Yeah.
Tell us why.
So my platform is All Aware Allergy Awareness. I tackle more than just food allergies. I tackle the entire realm of allergies. However, food allergies is the main component just because it is so prevalent, especially in our school systems.
What is it about food allergies that you think maybe people don't know enough about and need to know more about?
Yeah, so in America, the amount of people that have food allergies would equate to the 5th largest state, which is absolutely mind-blowing to me. And it's something that just gets swept under the rug most commonly. And it's very unfortunate that it gets swept under the rug.
And I guess what do you hope you can express in going to Atlantic City and sort of speaking on this topic and on behalf of all those Americans that do suffer with food allergies? What's your hope, your goal?
My goal is just to raise awareness. First and foremost, but my bigger goal, especially right now, is to tackle the cost of epinephrine. It's a huge topic. Epinephrine pens are ranging from $600+ just to buy a set, and a lot of families have to buy multiple sets, and it's a definite setback for these families, and it's very unfortunate that the price is so high.
And we've heard a lot about that in the news in recent weeks, so very timely, a very timely
perfect
topic.
Timing.
So to the pageant, you grew up in Middletown, small town Delaware, really. Talk about your kind of journey to get to this point and to become Miss Delaware. Did you ever, as a little girl, kind of imagine that this would be your journey?
I didn't really think about it because I was such a tomboy growing up. That's such a stereotypical way of describing myself, but I was such a tomboy. I played soccer, I played basketball, I looked up to my big brother, and I was a competitive baton twirler. That was my only girly outlet. And my coach was a former Miss Delaware, and she just kind of urged me to start competing when I was 11, and I entered my first Little Miss pageant when I was 11, and I won. And I caught the pageant bug. I was Delaware's Outstanding Teen back in 2008, which is the little sister program to the Miss America organization, and then I was Delaware Teen USA in 2011, and now I'm Miss Delaware 2016. It's crazy.
And in a couple of weeks, we'll see you at the Miss America pageant in Atlantic City. And obviously, it's all about the scholarships, but it is a competition.
Yeah.
What is your preparation like heading towards Atlantic City to the September 11th pageant?
Yeah, so since I was crowned on June 11th, I was thrown into preparation. Obviously, I was preparing for the job of Miss America when I was preparing for the job of Miss Delaware. But since then, since my crowning, I was in the gym almost every day, because a large component is fitness. I've been working on my talent. I'm a dancer, so I've been in the dance studio as many times as I possibly can. And then I've been appearing and at a lot of community events, getting out there in my community, making a better state, making Delaware better.
Have you gotten some do's and don'ts tips from former Miss Delawares and others in the organization?
Well, I've been a part of the Miss Delaware organization for quite some time, so I've been getting these tips over the past few years, so it's nothing new for me.
So I guess, so Delaware's never had a Miss America winner.
Nope.
Is that pressure? Is it sort of, there's really nothing to lose and you can just go in and really just do your best?
Yeah, obviously every Miss Delaware, there's been 75 of us, and all 75 of us have gone into Miss America pageant hoping to take home the crown. But we just go in doing our best and showing everyone what Delaware's all about.
Well, you've picked an interesting cause, and we certainly hope you do well for your sake and for Delaware's sake. Thanks so much for being here. Amanda DeBus is Miss Delaware. You can watch this interview again online at newsworks.org/Delaware.
The definition of art has changed over time. At one time, it simply meant skill. A new exhibit at Winterthur looks at where embroidery fits into that definition of art with some unique and rare items. It's our first experience this week.
This is an exhibit that's very, very close to my heart. I've been wanting to do this exhibit for years because it is something that is so misunderstood, and it's so meaningful and resonates so much with women. This was a big part of a woman's education. Drawing, painting, needlework, as well as music. This is just one of those aspects. Embroidery was considered to be an art form in the past, but our current definition of what art is has kind of morphed. What really roused me is people considering it as being folk art, which the definition of that is fungible, but often means someone who's not classically educated in painting or what would be called fine art. But this is just every bit as artistic. In the early period, in the medieval period, the word art meant skill. And so some of the earlier pieces in the exhibition really talk about skill and then what is the artistic part of that skill and how that was defined over time. We've got things in the show that range from the 17th century right through to the late 19th century that range from just embroidered pocketbooks as a way of displaying to pictures, the kind of things that people would think of more as art, framed work of art. Some of them were displayed in art galleries at the time. We've got a wonderful picture that was done in Philadelphia being exhibited at the Pennsylvania Academy of Fine Art, the first art gallery in America. There's an amazing dressing table cover from the 18th century, one of only 3 known, and it's displayed for the very first time, so we're very excited about that. This is something that is a very interesting thing to explore and question our preconceptions, both about the past, but also about our time today. Just enjoy the beauty of these works of art. I mean, they really are spectacular. I'm just thrilled to be able to put it on display, and I'm equally thrilled that it's received so much attention.
Winterthur has lots of events and exhibits all year long. You can get more information when you visit them on the web at winterthur.org.
Next week on First, we report on a basketball league in the East Side neighborhood of Wilmington that does more than just shoot hoops. We'll profile the work that group does in Wilmington's East Side. The Brandywine Arts Festival is right around the corner. We'll talk about that, and we have a segment to help you remember who is running for Lieutenant Governor on the Democratic ticket.
Very interesting stuff, but you're going to have to wait until next week's show to learn more. That is First, though, for this week. We thank you for watching. For Nichelle Polston and Mark Eichman, I'm Shirley Min. Have a great week.